Good morning, everyone. I'm just watching the addition of participants as we open up this morning's launch to everyone. You're all very, very welcome. I'm Gary Martin, Director of Economic Development in Donegal County Council, and you're all very welcome to the launch of Buy Donegal this morning. I want to offer a particular welcome to all the members of our business community to which this event is very much focused, our media partners, and obviously our elected members and councillors who provide us with the funding for these types of initiatives, and indeed any other interested parties out there. We are very, very welcome, and we thank you for taking the time to join us this morning. We have a running time of approximately 45 to 55 minutes, and very briefly, the running order is as follows. The Cathaoirleach of Donegal County Council, Councillor Jack Murray, will give a welcome address and outline the importance of the business community in Donegal as an integral part of what we do. The business community depends on the council to, I suppose, provide it with the services that it needs in order to do its day-to-day business, and indeed we depend on the business community to support us as well in the payment of rates and other charges in order for us to facilitate that delivery. Moving on after that then, our colleague Stephen Perry, the Economic Development Officer with Donegal County Council, is the lead on the Buy Donegal campaign. He'll give some further detail about the campaign and share the official campaign video, which I hope you'll find interesting. We then move on to our keynote speaker, Charlie Boyle from Customer Experience Excellence Ireland, who will discuss how to build a retail focus for your business and give tips and best practice examples for you to get best effect from your marketing efforts. We also have two other keynote speakers as well here this morning, Edelle MacBride, award-winning designer from Canva, and Wille, Cremen, Director of Filligans Foods and Glenties. They will outline the story of their own respective businesses and stories and the benefits of the campaign such as this can bring to businesses in County Donegal. We'll then be joined by our colleague Conor Doherty from our Economic Development Unit, who will give a short video tutorial showing the digital assets available for businesses to utilise for the campaign and how you can maximise the impact on social media during the Buy Donegal event running through November and December of this year. And finally, some housekeeping. Everyone's microphone is muted during the event, but if you wish to ask a question or any particular query, type it in and we'll get to it during the question and answer session at the very end. So without further ado, I now ask Stephen to run the presentation from our Cathaoirleach, Councillor Jack Murray.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the official launch of Buy Donegal 2021. As Cathaoirleach of Donegal County Council, it gives me great pleasure to warmly welcome you to today's event from wherever you are connecting with us. Buy Donegal provides a great opportunity for our businesses to showcase their craft, talent, and innovation. We are very lucky in Donegal to have such a wide range of business offerings, and it's so important that you, our business community, are supported. Last year, we saw a phenomenal response from both business and the public in collectively promoting enterprise in the county. 2021 will provide an opportunity to build on the success of the inaugural campaign and generate even greater interest in Buy Donegal. The success of last year's campaign, and I'm sure a key part of Buy Donegal 2021, is in no small part to the work of our media sector in Donegal. We thank all of you for the important role that you play and for your continued support in promoting Donegal business and all aspects of life in the county. For the businesses involved in Buy Donegal, I would also ask for you to play your part in continuing to make this campaign a success, as you have done last year. By communicating to our customers and through social media, you will help to make the campaign stronger and make sure people are aware of this initiative. This will not only benefit you, but also provide the opportunity for more Donegal businesses to benefit and motivate more people to buy Donegal brands. I'm sorry that I can't make today's session, but I'm sure that you will enjoy the rest of this morning's event and hearing some very interesting insight from our guest speakers, Charlie Boyle, Edelle MacBride, and Wille Cremen. Also, Stephen and Conor and our Economic Development Division will share some very useful information on the campaign itself. Guramaigh.
Thanks, Stephen. That's great. I think our Cathaoirleach, Councillor Jack Murray, got his money's worth there. He got 3 runs around the track and eventually finished the lap. So, no, very, very positive sentiments, obviously, from the Cathaoirleach, I suppose, providing the context for the campaign and the positive sentiment that has been carried forward from 2020 in relation to the experiences that we had there. And as I said at the outset, the business sector is a hugely important element of what we do here in Donegal County Council as well. So moving quickly on then, I now introduce my colleague Stephen, who you've already seen on screen there. Stephen will give some further additional insight on the campaign, some reflections on last year, ideas on how the business can engage, and also, I suppose, present the campaign video as well. So I'll pass back to you now, Stephen.
Thanks very much, Gary, and good morning, everybody. It's great to be here and to talk about Buy Donegal once again, which is now taking place for the second year. And I suppose, firstly, I wanted to give a little bit of context for the campaign and my own background. So if you logged on and you were listening last year, apologies, there is a little bit of repetition here. I moved back to Donegal at the beginning of 2020 with my family after over 7 years in London to take up the role of Economic Development Officer. And I think, like most of the planet, we won't forget last year in 2020 in a hurry. When I started in this role, I was and very much still am massively impressed with the range of businesses across multiple sectors that have been established in recent years. And I realized also that I wasn't really aware of lots of those until I moved home. And that certainly was part of the motivation for Buy Donegal last year. The campaign will provide an opportunity for over 250 businesses involved to showcase their offerings to a wide and far-reaching audience who want to support Donegal businesses. We in Donegal County Council are delighted with the number of businesses who have got involved in the campaign, large and small from all parts of the county, from Bundoran in the south to Malin up north, from Gweedore to Lifford. Feedback received from businesses involved last year showed that 85% of those involved noticed a year-on-year increase in sales. And for, I suppose, ourselves in the local authority and for all of the individuals involved in the campaign, that really makes it all worthwhile. And it's a great motivation and justification to keep the campaign going as an annual event to help assist all types of businesses in the run-up to Christmases. And feedback is very much a gift in this case. And when people asked why the campaign itself was successful, I think it was down to a number of different things. Firstly, what we asked people to do, log on to buydonegal.com, make a purchase and post on social media with the hashtag BuyDonegal was a relatively clear message. Secondly, lots of people wanted to support businesses in Donegal wherever they were based in the world. And I think our campaign and website made it a little easier for them to do that as a portal for all of the businesses across Donegal that were involved. And thirdly, and without doubt, I think it was the collective role that everyone played in promoting the campaign and Donegal businesses, from our brilliant Donegal ambassadors and celebrities to our media, but very much, of course, our businesses. They really collectively promoted one another. They shared, liked, and engaged through social media, which had a brilliant impact. And ultimately, I think those who engaged most had probably the greatest benefit. And I think that's a key learning for any businesses involved this year. You get out what you put in. And I would just encourage businesses who are listening today, when you see someone posting an image of a Donegal purchase, please share or retweet this with the hashtag BuyDonegal, and it'll really help to increase visibility for the campaign. And tag us where you can as well. So whether that's across Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn, it reminds people of Donegal what they need to do to support the campaign. Some feedback we received last year was that people wanted to know where exactly in Donegal businesses were based. So this year, to reflect that, we've included a map to show where businesses are based, so for those who have a physical store, and with restrictions thankfully easing somewhat from last year. If people are able to do so, please do pop in and support Donegal businesses in store. Special offers were really great incentive to drive purchase last year as well. And where feasible for businesses, I would really encourage you to run offers if you can. There is the flexibility to run more than one offer and to run different offers during the course of the campaign. Connor, my colleague, will show a little later the various assets available for businesses digitally. And there are also things like posters are available as well for businesses who want to download and print out and communicate in their stores about the campaign. Buy Donegal wouldn't be possible without the work of many people. Obviously all of the businesses and those I've mentioned, but also colleagues within Donegal County Council and in our own economic development unit, especially Connor, Elaine, Martina, our colleagues in IS, Local Enterprise Office and Tourism, who all played their part. Thank you all for your time and effort in involved in the campaign. And I'll finish, I suppose, with the importance of telling stories. Buy Donegal is all about telling stories, good ones that is, about the individual businesses who are producing and selling a product or service. last year over 20,000 unique visitors. That's about 13% of the population of Donegal logged onto our site. And many people from over 40 countries supported Donegal businesses by buying from them. You will shortly hear from our guest speakers who'll share more of their own stories, and hope this gives ideas and inspirations for all of your businesses. I'll now play our official launch video, which I'm hoping is a little easier than the last one I attempted to play, which will give some insight about businesses involved in the campaign and their experiences from last year.
We got new customers from all over the world.
We ship our drinks all over Europe.
I even got an order from Ecuador. A man living in Australia.
What we definitely noticed from Buy Donegal was the actual Donegal people living in Donegal and supporting us.
To join 250 other Donegal businesses to be part of the Buy Donegal campaign. It's not often that we get to collaborate with that many other Donegal brands, so it was really positive for us.
Yeah, the campaign really showed how we can keep the economy going locally.
I'm so proud of what we have here in a rural part of Ireland.
Being involved in the Buy Donegal campaign, it did make us more active online. They would chat about how they've seen us on the Buy Donegal and continue to support us then.
We all shared each other's work using the hashtag Buy Donegal, and it's a bit like the saying, many hands make light work.
Very good. Thanks, Stephen, for the presentation, and thanks for the short video as well. It's great to hear the testimonies from those businesses that participated last year. At the end of the day, this is about, I suppose, increased turnover, and I suppose it's interesting just to hear the blend, not just from abroad, but also locally as well. And that's one of the things we want to do, is reach out to as many, I suppose, of the local purchasers of our goods and services as well, particularly at this time of the year, the November and December, I suppose, period, the peak time in the year when purchases are made for gifts and Thanksgiving and Black Thursday or Black Friday and stuff like that. So thanks for that, Stephen, for the very, very informative presentation. We'll just move on then very quickly to the next, and I suppose introduce our keynote speaker, Charlie Boyle, who is on the screen here, is the founder and chief executive of Customer Service Excellence Ireland. Hailing from West Donegal, Charlie has a vast array of experience in customer service from his experience in the private sector in the United Kingdom. He set up CSEI in 2012, and the programme that has been developed by him is now used by a range of organisations nationally and in the United Kingdom. So I just like to welcome Charlie and ask him now to make his presentation.
Thanks, Gary and Stephen and Connor and everybody else involved, and thanks for the invitation along to this very important event. So yeah, as Gary says, we're based here very, very proudly in West Donegal, a safe place for innovation, which is very important, a safe place to make mistakes. You know, we're always looking at new ways of doing things, and that thing of getting comfortable with failing and failing fast and failing again and trying it again. And probably 10 years ago, we would have been perhaps a wee bit backward about talking about being based in Donegal, but that has changed dramatically now, and that has become our strength. You know, the story behind it, that here we are on the edge of Europe. You know, we're a sort of we're an edgy county in any way. We've never looked towards Dublin in a governmental sense, and I don't mean that in any controversial way. We've always looked outward. We're outward looking. We've looked to New York, Glasgow, London, Manchester, Boston, Sydney, Dubai, wherever else, and we have a global perspective, and I think that's part of our branding as well. And there's also a mystique here as well. There's a mystique about us as a people, the mystique about the county, and you know, I think that's That's hugely important. And I can never remember the name of the girl last year. I thought she'd done us a huge favor during the lockdown, where I think it was on Facebook or Twitter. She posted something along the lines of, I've never yet to meet somebody from Donegal who's not hugely excited to be from Donegal. And that went viral. And I said, I think that kind of says so much about us as well. So pride and passion are two things that are of huge importance. And we run the danger, of course, in a digitally disrupted world of losing those two items or those two emotions. And it's something that we have in abundance, and it's something we should of course protect. And not only protect it, but the belief is that a lot of these things are going to have to be trained in now, because we may have learned them organically, but new generations are challenged in different ways, and we must support them, not criticize them. So customer experience is the battleground for the hearts and minds of the retail customer. There's no question about that. The research in the last 5 years has shown that the consumer now wants the experience to be as good as the product or the price that it's matched at. So experience is everything. We're now living in what's known as an experience economy. We are buying on the basis of the overall experience, but as Edelle MacBride reminded me last night, the coat must still fit, the cardigan must still fit, it must be of quality. So quality of product matched by quality of experience is really where the winners are, in retail. And we're blessed that one of the contracts we have is with 30 shopping centres in the UK, and in those 30 shopping centres are an average of 100 stores. So we both do the evaluation of the standards there, but we also get the intelligence or the sort of data back from there that helps us to shape the training programs. So here in West Donegal, in many ways, is this sort of research centre of what's happening out there in retail. Digital disruption means that a student going into college now, in 3 years' time, his learnings could become off the shelf life. They're over, so they have to constantly keep up. And we thought that the customer experience was going to be similar to that, but it's not. Customer experience is changing every 3-4 years as well. So customer experience is something that we must talk more and more about, because 86% of customers, and this is a stat from PwC just this year, 86% of buyers will pay more for a better customer experience. And that's a huge statistic. And the other one on the other side of that coin is only 1 in 26 customers complain. Only 1 in 26 of us, and I'm one that doesn't complain. And of that 1 in 26, 74% of those who don't complain will go elsewhere. And that's a revealing statistic. So we don't know what's walking out the door of our businesses. So what the consumer is now saying to us is, it must be matched by customer experience. And sometimes we get confused. We think that's just customer service at the front of house, returning a phone call, returning an email. All those things are important. Doing simple things extraordinarily well is hugely important. But Simon Sinek, of course, done us a huge favor, I think, for Donegal years and years ago when he talked about the why. Not what we do or how we do it, but why we do it. What's the sense of purpose? And I think we've got a blank canvas in many ways here in Donegal to be able to build this in. It's in the story, as Stephen says. But what is the story? The biggest part of the story is, what is the purpose of what you're doing? What's the benefit? What's the social dividend? What's the social impact? In talking to Wille last night, I was just blown away by the fact that he employs 8 people in Glenties. That could be the equivalent of 800 people in a city. What's the social impact of that down through the years? So we must look deeper and beyond. And when we're doing that, we're letting our customers know what that purpose is. They will buy from us if it's an authentic story. We have to watch not to wrap it up too much in fancy language, but do it in that authentic Donegal way. And the memory, the rivers and the heather and the mountains and all of those things that are raw and nearly daily reminders, is to keep it simple, but to do the simple things extraordinarily well. Let's not get too caught up in complicating it, because what tends to happen is the marketeers, and I'm one of them, I suppose, myself. What we do is we tend to complicate things instead of simplifying them, and stick with the simplification of it, but do it really, really well. So people are not just looking for a product that fulfills a practical need. They're just not looking for a product combined with an image that reflects their personal identity, although that's part of the reason. They're not looking for a product at a certain price per se. They're looking for something that has a sense of purpose for people that are passionate about what it is they're doing, or at the very, very least, genuinely interested in what it is they're selling. And more we can see and feel ourselves, falling into that. So we're buying the story, we're buying the purpose, we're buying the reason behind it. And businesses in Donegal, many businesses in Donegal have an advantage, not a disadvantage. We have to move away from the mentality of disadvantage. We have to wear this unique mystique sort of, up here, it's different. We will never succeed in retail or in business if we play the mentality of a victim. And if we play the mentality of we have an advantage here, we're letting people in, but we're letting select people in. If we look at the mistakes perhaps made in other areas and other sectors, Donegal has this sort of, okay, let's just slow down and get this right, but let's not wait for a 5-year plan. 5-year plan is just outdated. It's a plan for the next year, because where was the 5-year plan 5 years ago, taking into consideration what we've gone through in the last 2 years? So it's great to see, the council's initiative here, and it's not today or yesterday that they've started initiatives like that. And the easiest thing in the world for us all to do is jump on the bandwagon of criticism and have a pop. But, I was out walking, I was reminded of this on Sunday, I was out walking with a group, and there was a new member, and a guy that had moved from London to Donegal to set up a manufacturing of high quality metal, where he's going to sell back into the UK and Europe where his market is, and he's going to employ 4 people. No Donegal connection whatsoever. And I started asking, why did you set up in Donegal? And he said, people kept on telling them in London, Donegal, try Donegal, try Donegal. And he didn't know what it was, and I didn't know what it was. And I think there's nearly a branding around that. We don't know what it is. And let's not try too hard to find it out, because others might know then what it is. So let's just keep that sort of mystique there. But I'm just going to finish on a few slides here, and hopefully these slides pop up here. And they're not, please don't see them as a lecture in any kind, shape or form, but they're just sharing probably data that we've been lucky enough to have seen in the last number of years. And it's sharing these 6 pillars that KPMG have done, again, a huge favor for us in the last 11 years in coming up with these 6 pillars that seem to be universally accepted, that this is what the consumer wants in terms of good customer experience. And the reason I'm showing these, I think that Donegal and the DNA of Donegal is wrapped around each and every one of them. The first one is personalization. And that might sound a very, very sort of sexy term, very digital term, but personalization is just getting to know the person. And I think we're good at that because we're inquisitive buggers. We want to know where people are from. We want to know why they're here, and we want to know who they are. Integrity is of huge importance, becoming more and more important. Somebody suggested to me recently from a company that is the most important for them. Expectations is delivering on our promises, but not promising something that we can't deliver. So let's promise something, but over deliver on that. It's all quite simple, but this is coming from huge global research. Resolution, you fix things. Stephen and I set that video not working up beforehand because we wanted to show that when you resolve something, you become a better supporter of the person even afterwards. Time and effort is important. We're becoming more and more, unfortunately, time poor. So we want things quickly. We want them effortlessly. We don't want to make a huge effort to have to purchase something. And the last one is empathy. Empathy can be achieved online as much as it can become in a face-to-face. So these 6 pillars that are shared by, customer experience, observers globally. If we look at every one of those, and I looked at these in the last few days and I thought, yeah, this is Donegal in many, many ways. And this could be something that, we look at to achieve. And just to finish, just to remind ourselves that we're trading in an experience economy. The experience of buying the product is as important as the product itself. Digital and IT are here to enhance the human touch, not to replace it. And that statement came from Steve Jobs, who was the forefather of the digital and IT. So we need to watch, it's a balance. Digital is fantastic. We're all benefiting from it every day, but we need to watch that we don't get the imbalance. wrong. And Donegal has a huge opportunity to be a global leader in customer experience. We have the landscape, the people, everything is there. And if it's something that we focused on and make sure that we attach it to whatever it is we're selling outwards, be it a product or produce or services, tourism, hospitality, whatever it is that there's just a big opportunity for us to get this right within the county. So good evening, Arish, Gary, and thanks again for the invitation, Stephen.
I think, Charlie, one of the best 10-minute tutorials I think I've had in a long time. I suppose an awful lot of common sense, I suppose, interspersed into, I suppose, a couple of quick takes from it. I suppose the authenticity that you talk about is something that we've been trying to develop, in the context of our brand and our imaging. So it's really grateful, it's really gratifying to see, yourself looking at it and I suppose drawing the same conclusions in relation to what businesses need to do to be successful, without losing that, I suppose, unique or genuine aspect to what makes Donegal people. So listen, thank you so much for that. It's a very good segue as well, I suppose, to introduce our next guest, who needs, I suppose, very little introduction at one level. Edelle MacBride has been, I suppose, comes from a very talented family in Convoy, very creative family across so many different areas, and has been one of the leading knitwear and clothing designers and manufacturers on the island of Ireland for quite a number of years. I won't give the number of years, but quite a number of years at this stage, and holds, I suppose, a particular market and has a particular view that we really think we would like to share with you here today. So I'd like to thank Edelle for taking the time to join us today, and I suppose to tell us her story in relation to their experience of Donegal Connect last year, and how, I suppose, at a practical level, how they see initiatives such as this helping, what is a very well-established business in its own right. So Edelle, I'll hand over to you.
Okay, good morning and thanks for all that. Gary, with family, I'm going to start as usual with the scale. So my name's Edelle MacBride, I'm from Convoy, and I've been involved as a maker and a business owner and an educator and volunteer for more decades than I can hardly count at this stage. I started my business at 22, but as I'd had my feet in it in ways before that through my teenage years with various little craft fairs and things going on. I grew up in East Donegal on a small farm, and my father's building business as well was run from the home, and it's something I've had time to think about in the last year of just how much administration my mum did with that. But I can tell you, he did not plan self-employment for any of us if he had had his way. He knew far too much about the pitfalls of it, particularly coming through very rough times in the 1980s. So I've had time to think about that. And I really believe in what happens with our young people, and, give me the child, and, I will give you the growing up. And I think about how all those evening conversations at home and great arguments and discussions with plumbers and electricians and blocklayers and fitters and architects and prospective clients and company reps, and how that kind of rubbed off on us. And it was a business in action, and at times it was great sort of crack too, and it was certainly very insightful for the six of us growing up. Now, knitting was one of my creative pastimes, and it was hard to avoid in Donegal with literally thousands and thousands and thousands of people knitting at the time. And it was certainly, I think I earned my first few shillings from John Malloy's when I was age 11 for these never-ending iron scarves. But it's not something that I ever seen as a career, or that was ever a suggestion of that. And certainly having knit a life now behind me with lots of it darned together as well, it's kind of an interesting one. But I seem to have a talent that was of more natural to me than the torturous fiddle or piano lessons at the weekend that had to be got through. At the time at St. Columba's, I think the sisters there had quite clear designs otherwise, and even turned up at home telling my parents that the bishop was going to pay for me to go to Christian Doctrine College. This was news to me. I know I had an argumentative streak in that class, But my mother spoke up and said she's been drawing and doing things since before she could talk, so let her try it for a year. So I think of it as a year that's lasted a few decades now, and I've had a business that's taken many shapes. We were selling knitwear to Italy when I was about 23 or 24, and to their leading department store. And people actually argued on courses we were doing at the time, you can't be selling knitwear to the Italians, they're the best in the world at it. So it's amazing what people can be doing when they're really, really quite young. There was a lot of wholesale possible in those times. It was a very, very different climate and from what we have now, but the opportunities are different now. There was a buzz then of globalization, and it was very much, if you don't go abroad, you won't survive. And I would have worked to keep the fires burning at home and keep the business going at home. I worked in consultancy in Eastern Europe and India and Serbia. I always think in one job where myself and the lady who was in charge of the whole knitting room, no one had a word of English. But we put a great collection together for another Donegal business, and we put that collection together in a week. And a lot of pointing happened. But within your field, there's a language all of its own, and that's, you know, very special in itself. My favorite work, which we would call collaboration nowadays, but it was really all born out of skill sharing and mutual respect, was in Glencolmkill, a relationship that continues to this day with the most fabulous people. And I'm very, very proud of all that, of what we're making and what we do make there. I think around the time of the big bad bust, you know, people really returned to a sense of making and growing things, and very reflective of what's happened in the last year as well. There was a groundedness, despite, you know, all the terrible things that were happening and things that were closing down. We found that sense of things that I've identified with in the last year too. The knitting needles have taken me regularly to Milwaukee and to shows in Philadelphia and Boston and New York, and to do quite a bit of traveling, which I love. And besides that, at home, we did a huge amount, over 21 Showcase Irelands. And probably if you point out a field anywhere in Donegal, we had a stall set up there at some stage too. So what's very much all of that gone, I think it's it's been a salvation to have always had some kind of toe in the online world, but quite often having maybe invested in it in like 06 and a couple of different times, there wasn't the broadband, or there wasn't the structure to drive any of that. So it was a timing versus the mechanisms that were there to pull it together. So we're here now, and the last 18 months saw a sense of activism and volunteering come to the fore. And I noticed one thing, that it's really true being self-employed. It's meant you're completely trained for uncertainty. Uncertainty is something you live with. So in recent years, I've seen that the value and the why of much of my work, we'd call it social entrepreneurship today. That's not a term I would have been familiar with or that was talked about years ago. But you know, there's just so much, you know, with Charlie or that was touched on this morning, of story that was there. So many of them, like sisters from the Cremen with their mother who was registered blind, who would arrive at my first shop every Saturday. And by God, you were organized for them with the work and with the checks, because this is the way things operated. And the next minute you could be sitting under a picture of King Billy with another amazing craftswoman. And, you know, we've a history of people there that haven't been seen or heard really at all. And the amazing thing about all that and the social entrepreneurship side of it was the sense of purpose you were giving people. And that sense of purpose is something I believe in personally. And it's something that it's massive for society and for health and for all connectivity of everything. So to summarize that, I suppose I realized that the way you treat people is everything. Being authentic and real and honest, and these things build your brand. And the awards and courses and media and all these things and the likes online, I mean, they're all nice, but they're not going to sustain you when the wolf's at the door. And the authenticity of your content is crucial, and that whole experience that we're talking about this morning. And sometimes you're too close to it to maybe just see where the real story is coming from. So I have 3 points about what really helped with Buy Donegal last year and that I'll be focusing on this year. And why I'm engaged in it at all is I believe in Donegal, and I always have. And I very much resented the fact that people thought 30 years ago you decided to be here because you had no choice. And that was an opinion until really quite recently. And, the job offers were there in other places, but I absolutely love it here so much. I moved from Convoy to Ballybuffet, and that's it. So I worry about Donegal too. We have a very young population, and there isn't something for everyone. There's so many folks with great gifts and talents to give, and they're left out. They're kind of left out of the room here. This is a big one with my brother. If you start him on apprenticeships as well in the joinery industry, and I've seen it in my own background. In fact, the CEO now of the Design Crafts Council Ireland is referencing the traditional skills lack that's there, and the generations coming along behind me. But I think at times we confuse CVs with valuable life experience and what's true story. That human connection, and all that glistens on paper isn't gold. So my 3 reasons for Buy Donegal, to summarize: we don't shout about our own enough. I've always thought the sports folks get a fair shout out, thanks to Patsy McGonigal and Chris and whatever, But we have the best musicians, we have the best jewelers, we have the best of world-class making going on here. And some of it is hanging on a thread, and it's keen to not just keep going, but to pass it on. If somebody's having to push you into a craft shop, or you're feeling guilty about not shopping at home, the messaging is somehow wrong on all sides. You can find the best in this county, and some of the best are very quiet. They're busy making, and it needs shouted about. And Buy Donegal is a collaborative opportunity to do that. And the role of arts and culture and heritage is something I'm passionate about in building all areas of our living and business economy. Then number 2, cross-pollinating with other business communities is good. I really feel we just got into our own corners. And what is that thing about we gather in flocks that we're comfortable with, So it was, and we're so time poor, despite the pandemic. I don't know what's going on, and everybody's talking about not having time. And there's so much competing for our attention. So we can promote each other, and we can sell to each other, and we can know there isn't a week that I don't find another Donegal business that I'm amazed by. So number 3, very practical one, the exposure of it all. And that is transmitted through the links in and out. Links in and out to your own website are just of the greatest value to get you exposure and to be visible online. But use the hashtags. I love them. I just love that. Hashtags are brilliant. The first time I heard a DJ on the radio years ago mention one, I didn't have a clue what she was on about. When I found out the power of how the hashtag can bring up all this information, get your own one, get your Buy Donegal one, get your own hashtag to track your own performance. I have one offer ready to go listed, and it's hashtag Donegal 100. And I am looking for a buy-in that you spend 100 and you'll get free shipping to anywhere on the planet up to a certain point on that. So I'll start with the hashtag Donegal 100. I'd really love people to sign up to my EdelleMacBride.com mailing list. And my blog, which I have a couple of very interesting articles written on, connecting Marilyn Monroe, 20th Century Fox, and Donegal very strongly in the 1960s, with evidence behind that. So I think that's a good way we can stay connected. And stay in touch. My Instagram will be sharing stories throughout by Donegal. And thank you for the invitation today. Go Mille Magat. And
thanks, Edelle. An awful lot covered there. And look, I really appreciate you telling your story, you know, building on the natural talent that you have and trading to, I suppose, so many challenging economic environments over the years. I think, look, you demonstrate huge vision, creativity, resilience, and obviously the evolution of your business from where it would have been back when you were a teenager to where it is now, and utilising, you know, modern, I suppose, digital media and actually getting your message out there. And I think your messaging in relation to the use of the hashtag, as you concluded, is really good as well. So thank you so much for taking the time to share your story and your advice this morning. Just moving on, the second presentation in relation to the By Donegal business stories is a company that I was on the ground floor on. I have to say, given my age, I would have worked with Philip and Sarah Moss back in the late 1990s when they were establishing Filligans Foods. And it's really great to see, and I think it's nearly 25 years now, maybe 23, 24 years, to see them being so successful in a rural area of the county, and very much that, you know, people who have come from outside of the county to establish a business in an area that they love, similar to what Edelle has said. You know, in other words, Donegal is the preferred location for business as opposed to it being somewhere where you have to be. And I think Philip and Sarah's story, and represented here today with Wille Cremen telling the updated story of that, it epitomises everything of what we're trying to do in rural Donegal. So with that, I'll hand over to Wille to tell us the story of Filligans.
Yeah, thank you very much, and it's an honour to be here. Yes, Sarah Phillips started the business back in 1997 from their kitchen, actually, making jams and chutneys for what was then a small business in Dublin. And from those small times, the business grew, and it was always around the ethos of handmade, small batches, traditional methods, you know, recipes passed down from generations. And that ethos really has passed through right through to the current day. So we haven't changed any of that. So in relation to the previous comments about craftsmanship, you know, our craft just happens to be food. You know, Donegal is famous for its craftsmanship. I think ours just happens to be food. And if you think about, you know, the great success even recently with some of the new food companies coming into Donegal, you know, we've had 11 BLOS awards this year. Many of them were young people. So I think the craftsmanship of food is actually, you know, coming, and it's something that can be worked on coming into the future. You know, we ourselves, we have 3 different strands of business, and the reason I mention this is about the difficult times in the last year and a half. And our 3 strands will include the Filligans brand. We have a catering side, and we have an own brand. And over the last 18 months, a lot of our friends and our stockists would have had to close for the pandemic. So the restaurants, the hotels, the gift shops, the retail outlets. So what was originally a longer term plan to go online for us was accelerated quite quickly. And I suppose in tandem with a lot of the people here today, we got support from Leo, and we went went online with our shop. But we also looked at it on a deeper level, and we went, listen, what are our skills in the social scene? And really internally, we didn't really have that set of skills. So we went out and got support for that and invested in that. And I suppose dovetailing with that then, the By Donegal campaign really overlapped with that momentum for buying local, supporting local businesses, supporting your neighbour, and looking at other markets outside. And that focus, you know, from the strength of in, outside is very positive, and doing it as a collective, you know, is a really, really positive thing. Like one of the things that we learned quite strongly in the last year or two is how co-promotion works, how leveraging with or working with another company is nothing to be afraid of. It's actually it can be very, very positive. I'll just give you an example. We worked with Schlievely Distillery in creating a silky Irish whiskey marmalade, which proved to be very popular, and it's 2 Donegal brands coming together. And that won awards at BLOS last year. And then at more local level, you know, we paired with a very good cheese, a Donegal farmhouse cheese, where our chutneys and their cheese are joined together. So there's ways of Donegal brands doing something together. And my advice to anybody out there is have a look at like-minded businesses and just set up a call. You don't know where it'll take you, but it can introduce and leverages some of the strengths of 2 businesses or 3 businesses rather than 1 business. And I think that one of the outcomes of the pandemic was, and of the scene that we were in, is that we got an awful lot of calls from third-party people who were doing hampers, and the hampers they were actually putting together were all Donegal hampers. So there was a market there for a Donegal product that was pushed and was elevated through the pandemic. But it just shows you what people coming together can do, because each of those people who were doing that were doing them with 10, 12 different products, whatever size they were doing it at. But it just shows there's a market there for it. Last year, we used the campaign last year to work with one of our Christmas products, because we have 4 Christmas products, so when we looked at we used cranberry sauce as the model for the push online, and what we found was when we used the Buy Donegal promotion, we promoted it on our website, we used our own blogs, we used actually targeted ads, and we found that there was a big momentum gathering as we started to push that out. That actually extended beyond the campaign right into Donegal, and it actually crossed over into our other Christmas products, cranberry and port, and a Christmas marmalade and a Christmas chutney. So yes, I would say commercially it was positive. This year we're probably looking at, because we have, I suppose, pushed on in our skills in social media, we're looking at a strong social media content plan this year, and we'll be working with ads to follow up with customers and remind them to shop Donegal this Christmas. Now, Reels and TikTok are top of the game right now, but you know, as small businesses owners, coming up with creative and viral videos can be challenging. But you can use tools like Canva to create animated graphics, which will boost engagement. And as was mentioned before, the whole area of using tags and links is a real positive. The other new thing that we're doing this year is we're also working with brand ambassadors. So as well as using key influencers online, we will help to share the word about Buy Donegal and why people should support it through our ability or our connections in that area. In all our media discussions, we have a very focused, I suppose, in the sense that we know exactly who we're trying to target. So as well as the series of prepared social media posts, we'll also be running social media and online ads to support the targeted areas. You don't need a massive budget for this. I'm sure this will be mentioned in the next discussion, but you can tailor it as you need it. And if you're getting results, you can invest a little bit more. You know, blogs I mentioned earlier, and they can be time consuming, and sometimes content can be a bit difficult, but they do impact on your SEO. And so therefore, when people use search engines, they might find you a bit quicker. And it also allows you then, if you're using the blogs, to enter into the whole clickbait arena of 5 reasons to shop in Donegal, or 5 reasons to join Buy Donegal campaign. So I'd say to the group out there, you know, there's a great history of craftsmanship in Donegal. Like, I'm from outside Donegal and I'm married into Donegal. But when people think of Donegal, they think of beauty, but they also think of craft work. And it's that essence from coming together and building the craft work that is inherent in the county that is a very big positive going forward. Thank you.
Thanks, Wille. And I'm glad you mentioned there at the outset, I had actually forgotten about it. One of the challenges, obviously, or opportunities that arose during COVID was, I suppose, the great interventions that came from central government. And there was a huge push on these trade and online vouchers that were delivered through the local enterprise offices nationally. And what it did do is that, I suppose, it accelerated the utilisation, I suppose, of digital media and web presence to allow businesses to sell their product or service. I'm sure it was always going to happen, but it probably wouldn't have happened as quickly. And what it did allow those who were maybe in on the ground floor an opportunity maybe to accelerate that engagement. And when I was talking to Stephen yesterday and preparing for today, I was just asking him, you know, can we measure maybe the movement from last year to this year in relation to the capabilities of businesses and actually taking advantage of an initiative such as Buy Donegal? So, you know, your reference in relation to that is very timely as well. I think very interesting as well, your reference in relation to collaborations, and obviously we're all very proud and excited about James and Moira Doherty and the Slieve League Distillery in Ardra, and it's great to see those types of collaborations now developing. And I think it's a very, very interesting proposition as well, and one that businesses should certainly consider. So thanks so much, Wille, and the very best for Filligans into the future. So just moving on to, I suppose, our last presentation, and I thank you for your patience. We're nearly within the time frame. Typical Donegal, we never do anything within time frames either, but we're nearly within the time frame. I'll just introduce my colleague Conor Doherty now, who will give a mini video tutorial showing the assets available for the businesses to utilise, updating the offers and spreading the hashtag Buy Donegal communications across social media. So Conor, I'll ask you to come in now, please. You're muted there, Conor. Just if you take off your mute, you can chat away then.
No bother, guys. Apologies. Thanks very much for the introduction there, Gary, and Wille. Thanks very much for mentioning Canva there as well. That's something we're going to touch on quite a lot just across this presentation. So essentially for the presentation, I'm just going to show you how you can maximize the campaign for your business. So we've got the two hashtags, Canny Donegal and Buy Donegal. So for the first part, we'll go through how you can add some creatives to your post. We've had some lovely designs done, and they can be shared across Twitter, across social media as well. We'll show you how to create a poster and a business card for your business. We'll have a look as well at how you can download those creations on your mobile, because we noticed that quite a lot of people, I think over 60% of the traffic on our website is actually mobile as well. So quite a lot of people will be posting on there for the campaign. And lastly, we'll look at how to get involved as well. So if I go through the first part and how we can add some creatives to the campaign. So if we go to donegal.ie, you'll see the section here, Buy Donegal. And from there, then you'll see some information about the campaign. Further down, we have a business portal at the bottom, and you can also access that at the top right. From there, then, you've got your sign up and your login for the campaign, which is great. And further down, we have our social media toolkit, which we'll touch on later, and some Buy Donegal creative assets as well, which you can use to jazz up your images and stuff for the campaign. So if I first show you how we can, say, create a social media image, we'll download the color logo for Buy Donegal first. So we can click here. And once that's downloaded, we can right click and we can save the image. And we'll just save it here in the downloads for now. And from there, then we can access a tool called Canva. So I'll just type into that through here. And there's details and information on how to sign up to Canva as well on our site. From there, then we can say, for example, search Instagram, and we can create an Instagram post. And from there, then we can just create a blank post. I've got a couple of business images here as well that we can upload. So this one's from Lino Cut Studio, who's recently signed up. And we can add the image to our graphic here and just make it a bit bigger. Center it accordingly. And now that you've downloaded your Buy Donegal asset in your download section, we have the Buy Donegal logo here. We can upload that as well to our image, and it'll come through your uploads. And then we can just add it nicely to the bottom. And we can add in some text and things as well if we want, or some extra elements as well. And finally, you can add a title to your creation. And you can download then accordingly as a PNG and share it across socials. So it's really nice to get our hashtag across there and across different images for different businesses. Also, you'll be able to create the images through PowerPoint as well if you don't have Canva. So if I just go back to Buy Donegal and back to the business portal, there's also an option here as well to download a social media asset for Twitter and LinkedIn. So if I click download, you'll have a PowerPoint presentation open. And from there, we've got some of last year's designs. We can delete the image in behind, and we can insert a picture that we've previously downloaded. So for example, we can use this nice throw here and add it to our images as well for the campaign. And then if we just want to send that to the back, you can see that the By Donegal creative is used across your images. And from there, then you can just hit save as, and you can save the image as a PNG and add it to your social media posts. As well as that, I just want to touch on how we can create some business cards and posters as well. So we will be sharing this template as well for how we can create posters. And these can go up across online. They can go on in your store and various other places. And we have a couple of different designs here as well. So if we use an image that Lavisha has previously uploaded, we can add this to our poster. And then from there, then we can just enlarge the image, bring it up a little bit further, and we can send it to the back as well. And from there, you can see that we've added the creative as well to the poster. And then we can save it again as a PNG down here at the bottom. So that's a couple of different ways on how we can create posters and how we can create creatives. We've also got an option here as well where you can create an Ask Gaelic or an English business card for the campaign. So again, you can go through the Donegal website and click on the business card. And from there, we can save the image again as usual. And we'll just put it in our downloads for now. And then through Canva again, we're able to search within the search section. Thankfully, Canva has loads of templated designs, so we can just go to business card and add a new business card here as well. We'll take an image that we used previously, so we'll take lino cut again, and we'll add that, and we will add the By Donegal template as well here. And once you're happy, you can click download, and you can send these to your designer, who can, maybe use these business cards when you're sharing your products, or with anyone who's purchasing your products. So another thing then as well that I mentioned is myself and Stephen were saying that there's over 60% of businesses, I think, accessing our site through the phone. So another handy way in which you can download the images directly onto your phone and share across social media is through signing up for Canva. And from there, then I've done a short video earlier just on how we can do that. So you can download Canva for your phone, and you can click here after you've signed in. You can see the designs, your designs on the bottom left-hand corner. And I'm just going to scroll down to sample special offer. And from there, I'll click on the download button. And once I click on the download button, that'll download the image and save it to my camera roll. So it's a handy way as well of how we can share images across social media and do it through the phone rather than doing it through the computer. But I would advise creating your assets through the computer as it's easier. Finally, I just want to touch on how to get involved for this year. So if I just get back to my slides here. So how to get involved this year. So we're pushing businesses to register through the By Donegal business portal. So if we go back to the By Donegal page again, by donegal.ie/business portal, you'll see the sign up section here for businesses, and you'll be able to input your details. Additionally, you can check out the By Donegal brand toolkit. So I'll just go to that as well. So that's within the By Donegal page on the donegal.ie website. If we go back down to business portal and we click on business social media toolkit, from there you can see some background information, the hashtags that we would like you to use, and the different social media accounts you can follow, some sample posts from last year with businesses, and then some of the examples of the creatives in use, some of the examples that we've created so far. So we would encourage you to use the hashtag By Donegal and Canny Donegal logo, hashtag, as that helps us to track, how the campaign's performing. Recently, my colleagues were involved in the Love Donegal campaign, and we reached over 17 million accounts, which was fantastic, with over 15,000 posts across Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and various other social media platforms. So we want to do that as well with By Donegal this year. And that's kind of everything for my presentation, folks. If anyone has any questions, you can reach us all the team at info@donegal.ie. And thanks very much for listening, and I wish you all the success in this year's campaign.
Thanks, Connor. I think some very, very good pointers there for the businesses that might want to use some of the material that Connor's referenced, and some very good tips on its utilisation as well. And obviously then the key issue is, look, any further queries or questions or follow-ups that you might have. Connor's referenced that as well. Just following the chat box there, not a huge amount of questions actually been raised, more I suppose reflecting, I suppose the excitement's not the right word, but I suppose the fact that many businesses are looking forward to this, I suppose are looking forward, I suppose, to getting their teeth into it, and I suppose hopefully getting, you know, some value out of their engagement in it. And I suppose in that context, Stephen, I might ask you directly in relation to as a question or a final question. What's the key advices you would give to businesses that are involved this year, given the experiences that we had last year, to allow them to get up that learning curve as quickly as possible, particularly for those who might see this as their first year?
Yeah, I suppose, I think we've touched upon a couple of other things, Gary, earlier. It's about telling that story. So try and, as Charlie said, be as authentic as possible. And I think there's probably two excellent examples with Edelle and with Filligans in terms of that authenticity. So getting out that information so that people can buy your story essentially, and in turn buy your product or service, and trying to get active in social media. So like we know last year, obviously people were at different stages of evolution in terms of website or social media, but having a facility to purchase, whether that's online or in store, is really important. Having a social media presence, if you don't have one yet, try and get one sorted between now and next Friday. We've tried to make it easier for businesses this year with the social tools that Connor has gone through, and folks as well, don't be alarmed if we whiz through that very quickly. This is all being recorded and we'll share the presentation afterwards, and there will be other video tutorials because I see some of the comments coming through. But just to post often, engage with the campaign. That's how businesses benefited really well last year, and I suspect that will be the same this year. And if you have the facility for a special offer, I think that will also help too, Gary.
Oh, that's great, Stephen. Listen, thanks so much for that. And I do know that we're over time, but I'm glad to see that we haven't had too many participants dropping off. So clearly they are engaged in the conversation. So look, what I might do there, I suppose, with everyone's agreement, unless any of the panelists have any particular pressing points that they'd like to make as a concluding point. Edelle just wants to come in there, I think. Yeah.
Just one thing I noticed on the hashtags, and as Wille said, to reach out to like-minded businesses. And just to stretch your imaginations in terms of like-minded, I saw a lovely campaign on Twitter, and it was Foxford Rugs had done a giveaway or something, and it hadn't got, you know, huge momentum. But they did a giveaway with shared hashtags with, I think it was Dingle Gin. So they put the gin and the rug together, and that went absolutely viral. So again, you know, partner up with a service or with, you know, we'll be putting jam with the knitting this year maybe. So very good, folks. Thank you all. That's it.
Okay, I think as always, Edelle gets the plug in there. The jam with the knitting is an option as well for this year. So I think Wille and Charlie, you're okay. There's nothing further you want to add at this stage. You happy enough? No, listen. I suppose, look, in conclusion, I just want to thank the presenters first and foremost for taking the time. Edelle and Wille and Charlie for taking the time this morning to have a chat with you all. Particularly thank as well, I suppose, those of you who have taken the time out of your busy schedules to join us this morning on screen. It's the one advantage, I suppose, in this new world we live in. You can actually participate in these kinds of events without having to travel a couple of miles to get to, and you can go back to your work immediately afterwards. So we thank you for that. And lastly, I suppose, to our own team here in Lifford, Stephen and Connor, indeed all of the economic development team, and indeed our colleagues across the local enterprise office who we work very closely with as well as the, I suppose, the delivery agents to support businesses both directly and indirectly in the county. So just to acknowledge all of them as well. I wish you all the very, very best over the next lot of weeks and months in relation to this initiative. I'm really looking forward to see what the outcome is when we measure the outcome of it all. I think this is something that we expect to be continuing going into the future, and we really need your feedback in order to continue to learn and to build from that as well. And I suppose, look, in conclusion, to everyone on the screen, in the last couple of months of the year, don't forget to buy Donegal. So go míle maith agah go léir an slán